Hey, Sean here. Welcome to Have You Asked Your Dad, the podcast that gets dads talking about things they don't generally discuss or simply haven't been asked an opinion on before. Today is a major throwback. It was late one night in October 2021, 14 weeks before his child was due, that Terrence and I caught up with Grant Hinds, one of South Africa's foremost tech content creators. Through this conversation, we peel back the layers of emotion and get inside Grant's thought process. Grant shares how he found out that he was going to be a dad, his feelings of being a present partner through a really rough pregnancy, and the experience of having his concerns about the truckload of upcoming changes swept aside by onlookers and support structures with the phrase, this'll pass, it'll get better. But what if it doesn't? We also get super practical and consider how to make decisions about the items and accessories a newborn is going to need. Okay, the stage is set. Let's get into it. Can I start by simply saying, how did you learn you were going to be a dad?
So it was an unexpected turn. We both got COVID, and I got better, and Amble didn't. So Amble's my partner, and she continued dealing with really hectic symptoms, vomiting, and so on. We now know that was the first trimester, but she was taking tons of Microdol and medication, COVID medication. Then we went to the doctor after a while. I was like, "Listen, we need to go to the doctor." The doctor was like, "Hey, you're quite a fair few weeks in. You should stop taking Microdol." So that's how that happened. Well, anyway, she gave Amble the pregnancy test and said, "You might want to take this." And then we actually didn't think that she would get. We were so doubtful that she'd be pregnant that she only did the test the following day because we kind of forgot. And then I walked in on her because I went out and she was just going to quickly do it like sometime during the day. It wasn't even like planned. We just assumed it was going to come back negative because she's never had a pregnancy scare. And as I walked in, her jaw was like on the floor. And I was like, "Hey, you're pregnant." So that's how we found out, yeah.
I mean, it really does sound like it really wasn't a planned thing. There wasn't something that the two of you were really thinking about or talking about. But for you personally, since you were growing up, did you ever see yourself as a dad? Was fatherhood or parenting something that you had thought about, hey, that might be great, or no, I definitely don't want that? Or was it something that you just never considered as you were growing up?
I never wanted to be a dad. I'm very focused on other things in my life, and I understand that being a good father is a huge time commitment and a huge life shift. I am quite a free person in the sense that I'm sometimes not in the country for a month at a time. I needed that. I do need that freedom. But when you're with the right partner and they know what you want for your life, and they know what they want for their life, like accommodating each other is probably the biggest concern, and it's much easier to do with somebody that you love and that loves you in that way. And I think because Amble's the right kind of partner, it made it an easy decision to say yes.
Can I ask you a very left field question?
Go for it.
Okay. I'm very interested to know your thoughts on breast milk. Okay. And mostly, I'm curious to know if you're curious to know what it tastes like.
To be honest, I expect it to taste like milk. Or like a really sweet version of milk? No? I didn't think about it. To be honest, it's not food for me. Listen, I don't drink animal milk because it's not for me. The baby milk is going to not be for me. It's going to be for baby. I think when it's there, I might go, "Ooh, I'm curious," and then chug some, and then Amble's going to be like, "That's for the baby. Stop it." And I'll be like, "Well, I need to know now because I've got to satiate my curiosity." But
apparently it's a thing that a lot of guys are like, "I don't know if I should know what it tastes like, but I'm curious to know what it tastes like." But it's also gross because it comes out of a human. And I was just interested to know if you had thought about it at all.
I mean, I don't think that's gross at all. Because it comes out of a human. I mean, you drink other things
I was gonna
that
say, we
lead to
drink stuff-
babies. You know,
Yeah,
You know.
we drink stuff out of other animals.
I
We
know.
won't
I
drink
know.
stuff out of
I mean,
yours.
like the best milk to possibly drink in this world would probably be human breast milk for us. You know what I'm saying? The best optimized. It's
yeah.
like optimized milk for
Yeah.
human consumption.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, but
wait,
it is
Sean-
for babies.
Sean, did you taste? Did you taste?
Say it.
your-
Yeah.
And
Well,
what
my
does
wa-
it taste like? Salty, sugary?
So when
I
I
assume it's sweet.
when I mentioned this to Rue the other day, she's like, "No, you didn't." I was like, "Yes, I did." She's like,
I
When?
wouldn't forget.
"She's like, when?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't think I announced it." but
It's
you
in the
weren't
fridge. I need to make some coffee.
But and I said to her,
Did you
"But
make
don't
coffee
worry."
with it? That's what I want to know.
I said, "Don't worry. I didn't drink it straight from the source." Till she's like, "Oh."
I mean, she would remember that.
She was worried she was asleep at the time.
No,
And
that's
I
like
had-
assault. That's sexual assault.
Yeah, so just for the record, no, it didn't happen like that. Yes, I tasted it, and I thought it was quite sweet in comparison to other milk.
Yeah, it was like ideal milk. Do you remember? Like,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
have-
is it like ideal milk?
It's kind of like well, that was my
Yeah.
Babe,
the close.
yo, where's that breast pump? Immediately.
You gotta,
It's going to be Cadbury's.
You gotta get the double.
Glass
A
and a
glass and a half of breast milk.
Prior to finding out the gender of your child, you can tell us how that happened as well. What kind of dad did you think you might be?
What kind of dad? Well, like I have an approach to life which I think will kind of just not out of intention, by just default, because like I know my character at this point is just kind of be a person that wings the stuff. Like I can't over prepare for things. All of my TV interviews I do, like I barely do like any prep work. I kind of do some reading or whatever beforehand, but like you kind of just wing it. And I think with fatherhood, I think it's going to be a similar thing. You know, keep this human being alive for as long as you can, and give them a good childhood, I guess. And I heard something today actually, which was really interesting. It's like you can't really plan for the future because we don't really know what the future's like, but you can give your future child, a good childhood. And I was like, that's a nice way to look at it, because they're going to take that with them, and we're probably going to pass away, but they can go like, oh yeah, I remember some things my dad said, or some like experiences that, you know, like car rides to school where I got to choose my song or whatever the case is. And I think it's like, I don't want to try too hard, if that makes sense. I'm not compelled to become like elite dad and get equipped for a lot of things. I just want to make her like comfortable and happy and just, live her own life.
Is there anything though with that where I totally, you want to be relaxed and you want to deal with things as they come appropriately. But is there anything that you might be you feel like you want to be specifically intentional with, have some pre-thought, like this is something that there's this one thing that I want to nail. Like for me, it was reading to my kids every night. I want to make sure that my boys are readers. So we read to them every night and have every night for the last 7 years, to the point of being ridiculous, where I'm exhausted.
Can I just slow clap right there? Because that is an amazing achievement.
Okay, well, it's my wife and I, so it's
Oh, okay, well, half the
not-
claps are for her then.
half the claps of her. But, and we have a couple of those things. And I'm wondering if there's anything in your mind where, like, these are the things that I kind of want to make sure that I nail.
Oh, there is one actually thing that I've thought a lot about, as I want to give her the ability to say no. And I've been thinking a lot about this. A lot of like my childhood was raised where you have to listen to parents and what parents say. You can't say no. If your parents say something goes, it happens. And I think that's an unhealthy way to raise a kid, because they end up looking at authority and not being able to say no to authority and put into some really, dodgy situations. There's a great podcast that I've been listening to, and Sean actually put me on to it. It's called My Only Story. and it's that News 24 thing, and they're going through a case now. I'm not going to give too much away, but they talk to a child psychologist and someone who's dealing with rape victims and survivors, and a lot of children get sexually abused, predominantly because they become guilt-ridden with saying no to adults, and giving a child the agency to go like, oh, they don't want to eat their food. Going, okay, cool. You have agency to say no to me, and it will be granted. You know, if you feel uncomfortable, if you say no to me, I will you don't have to wear a jersey or whatever the case is. Yeah. I think that's. I mean, they'll learn through experience with those things. Like, oh, this was a horrible decision not to take the jersey.
I should have listened to my dad. Yeah.
There were consequences to this decision, and I will have to deal with that too.
But I grew up in a very different way. I grew up like being told, like, to obey authority to the nth degree, and not question authority's intentions, and that came from both. I had really strict parents. I love them. They're great parents. But that was an attribute that they brought into it. I went to a very strict church, and I went to a very strict boys' school where it was very similar ideologies that kind of like permeate through. It's like top down, and I kind of want to like, disassemble that a little bit, just because I want to be confident that if a situation comes up, that she has the agencies to say no. Or to identify that there's an issue and not be fearful to stand up and go, actually, no, the authority in the situation is actually wrong, and how I feel or how I understand the situation is right, and I can warrant my feelings in that situation.
How far are we at the moment?
I got an app for that. Hold on one second. 26 weeks and 3 days.
You're in 26 weeks already?
Yeah, wow. 14 weeks to go.
Wow.
We haven't booked just to tell you how chilled we are, we haven't booked the hospital. There's lots of like, well, we're literally getting through this day by day.
So you're 26 weeks into the pregnancy, and what has that been like for you? And what has it been like for Amble and for you to watch Amble do so many questions?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's like another thing is like I'm getting a vasectomy straight after this experience.
What are you waiting for? Why don't you do it now?
I've got to look after Amble. We can't both be bedridden. That was literally an option, and she was like, wait.
You need an ice pack for a day. You're good.
I was going to say, that answers my second question about how you're dealing with things.
So she's struggling. It has not been a pleasant pregnancy. She's been vomiting. She's still nauseous today. This is supposed to be the glow up period, and every mother you go, oh, it's such an amazing experience. She's like, this is the worst experience of my life. Like, she's like, whoever self-inflicted this, she's been more like pro-choice now than ever. She was like, she's just been like, this is absolute torture. So she's coping. And like recently, how's this? So recently she had root canal prior to pregnancy, and there's no painkillers that work when you're pregnant, which except for paracetamol. But paracetamol and root canal don't go together. That's not a good mix. I mean, that doesn't work. So we had to remove the tooth. But even removing the tooth is an extremely pain. We didn't even realize this, but like we're like, okay, cool, we'll just remove the tooth. The dentist made it sound so relaxed. And it was such a traumatic experience. Like, she was shaking every time. It was actually really interesting because every time that she got the tooth tugged, like Jamie was kicking inside, like absolutely going crazy. So I could definitely feel pain, or at least the cortisol coming from her. Like, she was, the stress hormones. She was stressing out because mom was stressing out, which is very interesting. For me, sitting in the room, but while she was getting a tooth pulled out, that was not very interesting. She was panicking for both the baby and her face. So, I mean, I suppose that's why severe pain and trauma can cause miscarriage, actually. But anyway, so she's just like, no, that was torture. And then she was on paracetamol to deal with that pain for a couple of days. She's just out of the woods like yesterday. And I think she had her best day yesterday that she's had in 6 months.
Wow.
So, and like still, even then, nausea, like tripping. And now we're going into summer.
Mm-hmm.
And the third trimester, which is supposedly the worst trimester. So she was like, what? It gets worse than this. So she's not coping. And there's also something called antenatal depression. So not postnatal depression, antenatal depression. So she's been suffering from that as well because she's just dealing with a lot. And like she can't do her work. She can't contribute. She can't get out of bed in the morning. She's constantly barraged with illness without knowing it's going to get better, or it's only going to get better like halfway through next year, So her mindset is really taking on a lot. And then also we recently heard about the 4th trimester, which is the period of time, the healing period of time after birth, which obviously there's postnatal depression, and then there's also like hormones also going crazy at that time. So there's the other problems. So we're bracing ourselves for war. So I think that's really what it boils down.
And
that's why I say we're taking every day by itself, by its own, because it's such a traumatic experience. And this entire experience gave me an idea, and I think this is going to be a great idea. So hear me out.
Oh, I'm listening.
I think every 13-year-old boy, when they enter high school, needs to get a vasectomy, and they need to. It's like getting your tonsils out. It's reversible. You can reverse a vasectomy. It's
paracetamol in the chair, right?
Yeah. Paracetamol. You'll be playing PlayStation, for a day, and you'll be fine. 13, and then when you're 25, we have like a stitching back together party where you get vasectomy reversed.
I see. Okay.
And then you are like more adult and emotionally mature, and your brain is like its full size to make decisions to have children.
I mean, you're not the first person to suggest mass sterilization, but there are some ethical issues. It's not the worst idea, but there are some.
It is reversible. So it's not that, but also yes, no, I'm not talking about mass sterilization of minorities. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, you're not saying that. No.
But I don't know. I've been more antinatalist now than I think I've ever been. Just going like, why are we doing this? Like, it's just been such a torturous. My mom keeps on saying that everything's going to change when that baby's born, but like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
it's an experience.
She's not wrong. It might not be the change that you're hoping for.
What?
Yeah, it might
Like
not change. It might not change upwards. Is what. So I think.
That's
Grant,
interesting. No one's telling me that. Everyone's saying,
no
it's
one
going to be
wants
the best day of your life.
No one wants to scare you, but
That's why we're here.
Yeah, I think it's good that you're saying these things because there is this kind of narrative that like like talking about the glow that happens and it's wonderful and glorious and
it's aspirational for women to bear kids.
Now I have friends who have had that experience and who have had that process not because they were super moms or whatever. Really, it's because like a lack of genetics and hormones and situations, but they've had that experience where pregnancy was wonderful. If you speak to Julie, she'd say that a large part of her pregnancy was wonderful, but there's also this other side of bringing a child into the world, or bringing a child into your family that's really, really hard and ugly and gross. And there's a reason why postnatal depression is a thing and antenatal depression is a thing. And why so many parents struggle with it. It's because it's a hard, massive, life-changing thing to go through. So I'm glad that you're saying these things because I always have this fear that maybe we're so desperate to let dads like be excited and be great dads that we also kind of maybe lie to them just a little bit.
Yeah, I think I feel like I'm going mad because everybody around me is ecstatic, and you go like, okay, it's not necessarily the feeling I am having. And then every time I voice frustration, like I was voicing to my family, like it's frustrating watching Amber go through this pain. And like the concerns are shut down. They're like, don't worry, it's going to go away. It's like, I don't know. Women die in childbirth. That's a thing. Like it's not an easy process, and everything wonderful about pregnancy that we've been told has been terrible. So like, what's to say that the rest of this process is going to somehow switch, including parenthood. So that's the other thing. Everyone's like, you're going to love being a father. Like, I hope so, I really do, but I can't tell you that I'm going to. I'm not a dad yet.
There is always a lot of projection onto new parents by existing parents, by grandparents, by people that have never been parents. I think the thing that you're learning very quickly now is that advice is dispensed whether you want it or not, and it's often misguided in that you're the only person in your shoes, Grant. You're the only one that is with Amble 24/7, and you're the only one that has the full experience. A lot of us are coming at it from a different perspective because we've maybe lived through something similar, and even similar isn't the same. So, I mean, just looking at your mental and emotional well-being, you're standing up strong for someone else that isn't capable of doing that for herself yet. And you're feeling her emotions, you're feeling your own emotions, you're anticipating a new child to come into the world, you're balancing finances, and you're balancing expectations, and you're balancing just getting through the day. I think it's very fair what Terrence says, to acknowledge that dad is going through as much as mom is, just experiencing it from, almost want to say, like 2 steps back. Like, we're not supposed to be voicing our concerns as loudly as we really should be allowed to. We're supposed to be excited. We're supposed to be supportive. We're supposed to be there holding the hand all the time, which I have no problem doing. But there isn't always the space to go, I'm freaking out myself right now.
I mean, yes, but I'm definitely not going through what she's going through. So I acknowledge that big time.
No, you're not. You are not producing a human. No, 100%. You are not.
That aside, I mean, obviously, what I'm going through is, fortunately, Amble listens to me, and I can vent to her and express myself to her. So that's been great. But to be honest, I don't think I feel like we have the time to vent, in the sense that, like, my priority right now is to make sure that this child comes out healthy and fine and has got a roof over their head. And then I'm going to have, like, a little bit more time to process it while the child is here. Because I think, and the reason I say that is because mom's going to be healthy. So, because mom's going through the most, I can't afford to drop the ball in that way, or, like, you know what I mean? Like,
so what you're describing, I recently spoke to a psychologist about this, and we were talking about paternal postnatal depression, and she was saying that there is, for some, they've realized that there's this delay where moms tend to experience it right after the baby's born, like a few days or weeks after the baby arrives. And dads experience it a few months after the baby arrives.
Oh, wow.
For exactly that reason, because that is the point when their brains can finally go, okay, everyone's alive and safe.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all that tension and anxiety that they've been holding hits them like a ton of bricks. And they go through something that's very severe. And there's a lot of, again, like Sean was saying, there's a lot of, like, guilt, like, I didn't give birth to I didn't create a human being. I'm not supposed to be the one that is feeling down and sad and struggling. You know, there's this little baby in the world that I'm responsible for. And so dads don't feel like they can voice that. And we should have these conversations where people like yourself are saying, hey, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm feeling all of these things.
It's a big shift, because it's, you know, you go from a life where, like, I literally live year to year. That's how I've lived my life up to this point, and I'm 36. So, like, every year I don't plan. I don't have 5-year plans. And then all of a sudden this happens. And now we're moving to the suburbs, going to get a house. I've never enjoyed living in a house. This is going to be the first house I've lived in after I've moved out from my parents. I have like safety concerns with homes, like ground homes and stuff. Like, I just don't feel safe in a house. So we're moving into that environment. And then we're going to be staying there for an elongated period of time. We're going to be there. There's no uncertainty, which I'm used to, you know. So I'm used to just kind of, like, enjoying the fact that, like, you know, I could be doing something completely different in a year's time. Whereas, like, I don't have that. I'm not going to have that anymore, you know. So you do. I haven't had time. I don't think I'm going to have time for a while to process all of those things. And there are things that I am prepared to process because, I mean, those are decisions I've had to make. And I'm very, very happy to have made those decisions. But again, I can see why fathers do get that postnatal depression. I didn't know that was a thing because you're running, and then all of a sudden, everything that you've planned kind of falls into place. And then now what? You know, now this lack of sleep and doldrums is going to last for a couple of years. Whereas like I wouldn't know where I was going to be in the next month. Now I know for the next couple of years, this child's going to have a slow growth, you know, and I've got to look after this child. And those routines become things that are important to maintain. And I've never been a routine person either. Like I've never had routines. I hate routines.
Is there one particular thing you feel that you have to have in place before Jamie arrives? You've already spoken about there's the house and people talk about doing the baby rooms up and there's equipment that they feel need to get. And I know you're taking each day one day at a time. So you probably haven't thought a lot of this through. But is there one thing you feel you need to have before Jamie arrives? Not comes home, arrives, before she is born.
A car seat.
A car seat.
I know that sounds weird, but like,
no, it doesn't.
It's very expected. Like I'm a very pragmatic person. The answers you're going to get from me aren't going to be interesting. They're going to be like 100% practical. Like,
but you can't leave the hospital without a car seat. So you.
You could technically.
No, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to leave the hospital without a car seat. They will not let you take your baby out the hospital if your baby's not in a car seat.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Got to tell my mom that because she's insistent that we can buy the car seat later. And I was like, let's just get the car seat when we leave because the first time the child's going to be in the car, let's make sure there's a car seat. That makes sense to me. It's a practical thing.
Yeah.
And she's insistent that we can buy it after the fact. But I don't know. We're going to hospital that's very close to the house, which is cool. But this whole process that I've put together, like as soon as we found out we're pregnant, we're buying this house. We're moving in under a month. So we're moving in 20 days from now. And we're going to paint the room and get a cot in there. And then I'm doing everything like in stages. So once we move into the house, we're going to have like 2 months and I'm going to understand, okay, cool. What mental capacity do I have now to fix the house up? We need a baby monitor. We're not going to, because we decided we're not going to have the child sleep in the bed with us.
Right.
We're going to have a baby monitor.
Yeah.
In the other room or whatever. Maybe have the cot in the room for the first night. I don't know. And then like get used to the baby being in another room. I'm probably not going to sleep I panic. So I know this experience quite vividly because I've had kittens. And every time a kitten is very young, I panic about the kitten. Okay. So I don't get much sleep. And it's not because the kitten's making noise. It's because I'm sleeping lightly because I'm terrified I'm going to roll over the kitten. I'm going to walk to the bathroom, or my partner's going to walk to the bathroom and kick the kitten or stand on the cat. Yeah. You know, like I'm paranoid. So like I know for a fact that those first couple of months are going to be me barely getting any sleep, sitting next to the cot playing mobile games, going, "Yeah, she's breathing. Yeah, she's breathing." Yeah.
Look, I still sometimes wake up in the middle of the night. I have a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I still wake up in the middle of the night to go like, I'm just going to double check. It's completely irrational.
But like, I think
nothing wrong with that.
Yes, yeah. But like, I know for myself, like there was an age where the cat was like, cool, there's agency that this cat has got. And if it dies, it's its own fault at this point. So,
okay.
So then, shame, I've had family members pass away who are babies as well. So like some cot deaths and stuff. So I'm aware of that stuff. I mean, there's only so much that's in your control, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you can't feel guilty as a parent if that happens. I know you probably will. I don't know if any of you have gone through that, but like I know family members have. You know, you go through like mourning and guilt and grief, and but at the end of the process, you can't blame yourself because you're doing everything that you quite physically can, especially if you lack of sleep. Like at some point you've got to sleep. You can't stay awake for 3 months, like just to make sure this child is awake, you know? So like, I mean, you just do your best, I guess.
I'm glad we've established that you're going to have a car seat and a baby monitor. Have you considered how many nappies you might need to have at home? So
we've decided to do the
cloth nappies.
Nappies thing. Yeah, like there's a very expensive bamboo brand of
Yep.
nappies.
You know them only too well. Yes.
Okay, so we're doing that. Well, here's the great thing. So Amble studied fashion. She's an incredible folder. I know I have to learn to do the nappies myself.
Wait. You're giving her credit for folding.
Yes.
Folding. Okay, carry on.
Okay. So the reusable nappy thing is going to be great with her guidance. I'm waiting for her to walk into the room at any moment now.
Okay, but Grant, you know you don't fold these, right? These are clips. They have.
They just clip them on.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not, you're thinking of the nappies from like the 1960s. These
Yeah.
ones have a little thin paper lining to catch the
Yes.
solids.
Yes.
So you're not washing solids out of it. You're just washing the liquids.
Yep.
And they have clips, and then they have inserts where you
Okay.
you take the inserts in and out as you need them. So
That is
Yeah.
great. Okay.
it's
cool.
it's a whole system. It's easy to use. Really, it is.
Okay, that's good.
There's a
it's really
little-
good to hear.
yeah.
What a relief.
There's a little bit of folding and stacking and so forth, but I mean, you were effectively giving her props for folding it in half, and I was like, I'm sure she has more skills than that, Grant.
Okay, I didn't. To me, it was more complex in my head. I
that's
was
not
daunting.
that difficult. Yeah.
So
There's no baby pins. There's nothing like that. There's
No,
just
it's not
clips.
It's not
and-
folding into a triangle. It's not stuff that you watched on cartoons when you were 1990s. You were born in the 90s, weren't you?
yes,
80s.
No,
80s,
85.
80s, yeah.
80s. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
these are really practical things. You know, we've spoken about car seats and nappies, and these are a lot of things that I don't think I had properly got straight in my head up until like a few weeks before baby arrived, and all of a sudden I
really?
realized, oh my word, like you need to
What?
have systems in place.
But that's how I'm a thing. That's how I think. So like as soon as this happened, I'm like looking for like traveler sets and I'm getting like super practical. My mother's trying to discourage me from doing all this stuff, but I'm a very systems oriented person. So I'll go, okay, this stuff, because I don't want to be caught
With
out
your
of-
pants down.
Yeah, I don't want to caught like off guard, and also like it's what I can do right now,
Yeah.
Amble's struggling, so it's literally what I can do to help.
So where are you going for advice, for information, for potential like dad coaching? I guess would be the.
I'm struggling to find anything, and Terrence and I had this long thing. So I'm actually just looking for practical advice right now. It's like buying a traveler set is like solving a puzzle in Indiana Jones. It's just no one's giving you like what they're doing is that I'm in the tech industry. Okay, so those of you who don't know who I am, I do tech content. And
Go on,
there's
plug
this-
yourself. Plug yourself.
No, there's this trope in the tech world, in the tech marketing world, where you overcomplicate some products in order to sell other products. So
Right.
you won't understand some of the terminology, and then you will eventually just buy either the most expensive one, because you might as well at this stage, because I don't really understand what I'm lacking, especially as a first-time father. I don't want to buy a mid-range traveler set and then realize halfway through, like a year, going like we should have actually just forked out for the most expensive one. You know what I mean? So and that form of capitalism exists in the tech world.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's easy to dissect in the tech world because it usually preys on people that are ignorant. But it's hard to be ignorant in the tech world if you use the products all the time. Like
I
if
hear
you
you.
are a photographer and you're buying lenses, you come very familiar with the jargon, and then you make informed decisions with that jargon, which is great. Baby stuff is really hard. A traveler set is you're only going to probably buy one traveler set your entire life. And the reason is, even if you have multiple kids, you're probably going to reuse that traveler set for all the kids, or buy a traveler set that accommodates 2 children or more, which exist, which is terrifying. That
Dear
was a
listener, you can't see Grant's eyes, but I can, and that is they said everything.
Yeah.
But what they've done is they've over jargoned the industry, and they omit like important features. There's no like one traveler set that you need to get, which is very disappointing. There's like traveler sets for running, and then they'll compensate. They'll lower the price of other traveler sets by removing features or doing weird things. Like Terrence was giving me some great advice this week. It was like, make sure that you have a full bar around the back. And I was like, okay, wait, that actually makes a lot of sense, because you want to like hold a coffee or something while you walk your child. That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to.
And not just a handle. Yes.
Yeah, not just a handle that's turning the traveler.
Just going in big circles the whole time.
Yeah, right.
While drinking coffee.
It's like power steering. So I was like, right. So that's an easy thing to implement, but a lot of traveler sets don't have that. So the mid-range ones don't, but they'll add that very simple feature to an expensive one. So then they upsell you on the most expensive product, right? That's like 5K more because it's got a bar that goes across.
Because they know how life-changing that freaking bar is.
Yeah.
No, but you see, this is why I'm really struggling with media and consuming media around these kinds of things, because I want to be practical about the stuff. I do it with my tech stuff. I watch a lot of tech videos. Now there are all these baby products that we're going to need to buy. What is the best baby monitor? I don't know. There's so many features emitted from baby monitors. There's ones where the baby lies on a mat and it reads heart rate. You know what I mean? Like there's which I'm very excited about getting into all of this stuff, by the way. Like, not gonna lie. It's like practical technology. That's great.
Okay, so wait, we established that we're 26 weeks into the pregnancy. Do you know what kind of, this is going to sound very weird, but do you know what fruit Jamie is comparable at this point in time, Grant?
I actually do know.
Yeah?
It's an acorn squash. I don't even know what that is.
What's an acorn squash?
Squash?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's like a squash that kind of looks like an acorn, but it's 36 centimeters in size, about a kilogram, like 900 grams.
Yeah, 2 blocks of butter. Cool.
Yeah,
I
something
can
like
work
that.
All of the stuff is random. I never look at the size fruit on these apps because they're just like, I don't know. Is it 40 chicken nuggets? Like, I don't like.
Exactly. I love it because it's just so ridiculous. I mean, that's exactly that.
Fruit is different shapes in different countries. Like
for
one
sure.
was like a watermelon. Watermelon in the UK is very small. It's about the size of a small soccer ball, like a kid's soccer ball. So when they say watermelon, it was like last week was watermelon. I was like, there's no way this child's the size of a watermelon. Because if you're in South Africa, a watermelon's massive.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. And when with the prospect of it being the size of a pineapple, I'm like, oh, that would be uncomfortable if there was a pineapple inside
don't
you.
do sharp, pointy things.
You know, like just the absurdity of comparing to fruit
charge.
and so forth.
Child's the size of a depth charge.
Your child,
or a landmine in Rwanda.
Yeah. Your child's the shape of 14 steak knives.
Yes. Your child is the size of an iPhone 13s latest edition with, you know, like,
you've
come
never seen.
on. Anyway, okay, so we have established that she's an acorn squash, and in the next couple of weeks, we will speak to you again, and she will be a different fruit then.
Next week
How
she's a
exciting.
cabbage. But again, cabbage, what kind of fruit? There's so many different sizes of a cabbage.
Red cabbage,
There's
Chinese
no unified
cabbage.
size of a cabbage. What's the
Baby
average
cabbage.
size of a cabbage? Like you go,
About-
it's whatever's in the shops at that point.
As long as it's seasonal and locally grown, we're happy with the cabbage.
Fair.
Thanks so much for listening. You'll be thrilled to know that Jamie is happy and healthy, and we look forward to sitting down with Grant again to find out how things have changed since Jamie has been in the world. In the meantime, we really enjoy connecting with you, and until such time as we start recording in front of a live studio audience, please join us on Instagram. Simply search for Have You Asked Your Dad? Our email address is hyaydpod@gmail.com. That's HYAYD. Have you asked your dad? pod@gmail.com. And we welcome your thoughts on the show, as well as any suggestions for topics or questions that you would like answered. Thanks so much for listening. Until the next time, bye, friends.